Ready.
Okay, we're recording. This should be session 55. Who wants to give a recap?
So, from what I remember, we were recovering from the aftermath of fighting the trolls and quasits. We were, so first, the first objective was trying to find shelter. And then once we were able to find shelter for everybody, the next day we went and repaired the cart so that we could begin carrying supplies. And we began traveling, and then I had to dip out, but I recall hearing about the Bahir that you guys fought, and then also all of a sudden there's no magic.
Yeah, so we believe Zarius was sensing around, I think. And actually, because Nimrod is so smart, he heard voices. And they was speaking a different language that none of which understood. And they came out and attacked the party.
Right, well, the Bahir did. The Bahir was pretty clearly led to you by that quasit that got away.
Just got away again. Yeah.
Right, and magic hadn't stopped at that point. Magic was still working. Otherwise, the Bahir would not have been able to lightning Numerius in the face twice.
Yeah. The brave and faithful Numerius, sworn follower of T-Hole, was blown away by a two blasts, not one but two critical blasts of lightning bolt.
Oof.
Doing 76
critical?
damage both times.
Damn. Did he survive?
He did. I mean,
Yeah,
no,
he's
he
still
fell
alive.
the second time, but he's still alive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a half orc, so that kicked in for the first time, and then the second time there wasn't even close.
It was the second time. No.
Yeah.
I only do that once.
But he didn't run off. He was still in melee combat with the Bahir after that, with his one hit point. Right next to T-Hole. And then T-Hole once again, the Bahir shifted. T-Hole once again ducked, and he got hit in the face the second time.
We ended up taking down the Bahir. The Quasit got away.
Once again.
For yet another adventure. And then we continued down the road, and we came upon an encampment. So around that time, there was kind of a red shade that went across the sky. And all of the kind of sense, we kind of didn't sense magic anymore. So like everything that we have that was magical is no longer magical. The vase containing presumably, allegedly, T-Hole's beating heart stopped beating that he felt. And as we came upon an encampment with a couple towers, they recognized Zarius and Lucia Rossi and wanted to get autographs of their signed comics.
Lucia Rossi obliged everyone. Zarius kept his signature limited, so that it's more valuable. That's not why he did it. He was just being a grumpy asshole, but
I think the second time around he had patience for
fewer.
two.
Yeah, even fewer.
Two signatures, maybe.
And that's kind of what I remember, because then I think I ducked out.
Yeah, we were trying to get supplies from this this group. They were clearly military, trying to build some kind of fortification. And so we were able to get water from them. They couldn't offer any food. And they also provided some supplies, I think.
12 bear traps.
Yes, so that we could try to hunt for ourselves, which we were moderately successful at because I think Zarius critically succeeded his survival check for that.
A couple times, I think. But not critically.
It
He
might have
just
been-
rolled really high. It
Yeah,
was
so I think
27
Nimrod-
twice.
Yeah. So so we were able to at least provide ourselves with some nourishment for the time being, but that's something that is kind of becoming one of the bigger concerns since we do have such a large group with us. I think we're just about 15 people total right now.
And no ability to generate food or water through magical means.
Yeah.
And are we
And-
still fucking trailing these people with us?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's still a whole cart loaded up with stuff being pulled by the summoned warhorse.
Right.
Oh yes, I remember.
Yeah,
I
so this is
summoned my
not-
warhorse before all this magic stuff
And
happened.
fix the wheel on the cart.
Yeah.
Before that, Zarius also offered up the Warhorn to Aurelia.
Right. That happened too.
And Nimrod
I-
tried to be helpful with I'm assuming a decanter of endless water before realizing,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no magic zone.
But I knew that.
Right.
He was just testing you guys to see
Yeah.
if you guys would figure it out.
That's right.
Hey, it's hot.
That's right. Heat stroke and all that.
So the only other thing really that happened is moving on from the camp. You camped for the night at a small cabin that had attached to it a blacksmith's forge, and all of those tools. You then moved on to a very wide bridge that crosses the Tesoro River, which is a very significant river. It's several hundred feet across from one end to the other. The bridge was being held by a combined force of Imperial, Longspeare, and Church forces that are just securing the bridge because it is sort of the major way across the river at this point, unless somebody comes with a boat or a raft. You haven't seen any boats. There was some fishing done on the river. You didn't see even so much as like little rowboats while you were there. Probably they were destroyed or sailed away at some point when they cleared everyone out. There doesn't seem to be any population in this part of the country either, other than the military people that you've seen.
Which
But
reminds us,
it
we
was-
did have an encounter with forces from the Prelacies.
Right. They did encircle you and suggest Lucirosi should check in with whoever his superiors are to see if they're going to give him some other assignment rather than doing whatever he wants.
Blasphemy.
With a dragonborn. The fuck?
Right.
And,
And a
some demon
tiefling.
cat.
So, and it was when you were crossing that, the Tesoro River, that Zarius decided that 2 autographs was enough and blew everyone else off. Yeah, you also did learn from the original church forces that apparently whatever these books are that are so popular among the Imperial soldiers, not so much among the church forces. So they're not entertaining their troops to the same degree, apparently. And Zarius learned when he was at one point, I think it was at the Imperial camp, that his character died. His character's dead in the books. His character died and with his last breath embraced Asheros as his true god.
True story. That's canon.
Look, Yeah, canon in the books. There were other details from the books that people were surprised to learn didn't happen in the game.
Yeah, like my roar of death or something like that.
Yes, the defeat of the Shadow King and various other things. From what you've seen of the books, none of the details are correct. They were all just imagined encounters that whoever the artist is made up himself. He knew you were in the manor. You will only wonder, does he know you're out of the manor? Like, has it moved out of the manor in the series of books? But you were still in the manor in the last book you saw.
I do recall the church forces. Their horses were a little emaciated, right?
Yeah, that was just, I was sort of, so were they, but they were kind of armored up, so it's harder to tell. But
Yeah.
it's just, they're in the same boat as the Imperial forces in that they have food, but they don't have a lot of it. They didn't really
Right.
plan this war very well. So the introduction of all the Imperial forces is stretching their food thin. They're probably a little better off than the other armies because they have all the spellcasting clerics. But it doesn't seem like they're using it to create a lot of food for their horses in particular.
Yeah. Right now they're not fucking using their magic for anything. Them horses gonna die.
And I think it was also mentioned that T-Hole may have some understanding of the magical technology or whatever that's leading to this null magic field.
Yeah, so he would have explained that that this null magic field is possible through direct control of this scale, through control of the throne, the crystal throne,
Silver throne.
silver throne, through the silver throne, and it requires basically full and complete attention, and it's very exhausting. So he is impressed that it has managed to maintain over such a wide area for like 48 hours, I think at this point, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So he would have mentioned to the group like the amount of concentration and power that it takes to actually kind of maintain the spell for this long, which would indicate, which would be, I guess, at least a curious fact for whoever the current emperor is.
So it's about it is about midday when we're picking it up. You're now across the river. The Imperial forces or the military forces now are mostly behind you. The road seems open. It is once again the heat wave that's going on continues. It is probably in the upper 90s, if not over 100 degrees, and it's also incredibly humid. So most of the non-combatant types are kind of, everyone is sweating profusely, but they are sort of stripped down as far as they can go with modesty in mind. A lot of them are riding the cart. Cato, who has mostly been covered up given the extent of his injuries, even he is not as covered up as he formerly was. He took a sheet from the last house you were in, like a very thin linen sheet, and that is, other than his normal undergarments, he's essentially just sort of hiding himself with that in the cart itself.
At this point, is it if we're wearing armor, is it affecting our capacity to like continue on, or is this something where our characters would know that by continuing to wear armor, we're risking our health?
No, it's not quite that bad. You would know this if you pushed on for more than the typical 8 hours in a day, you might have to make a constitution check. But I mean, and the 8 hours can be sort of broken up. So essentially what you're doing, especially not to kill the warhorse, is because the cart's incredibly heavy, so the horse is also suffering through this. Essentially the day moves with you go for like 2 hours and then you break for an hour and then go for another 2 hours just to make sure that everyone has time to cool down. There is at least ample water in the area, so that it is not necessarily as bad as it might be if you were in the desert. But the humidity is sort of getting to you and probably would bog you down if you tried to push yourselves too hard. So so it's basically just for flavor now, unless you decide you want to like do 24 hours of all the day movement, then there might be a problem.
Where are we on the map?
I should update the map. So you would be just about here. You are approaching the border with the March of Foressa, which is the neighboring country.
Yeah, you probably pinged on the different layer. Oh, there it is.
Okay, I see it now. Yeah. Oh, okay. So the mountains are to the north. The mountains are behind us now.
Right. They're sort of to the north and the west.
Okay.
Or sorry, east, I mean.
Okay.
And the place we're heading towards right now is Cartha? Or
No,
were we going
Cartha is over here.
Yeah.
So the only easy way to get there is to essentially find a town that's along the shore here, and take a boat over to Cartha. At some point, you know that the camp that everyone's trying to get to is down in Ren. So they at some point are going to have to break off and head in that direction. But they don't know the exact location. They just know it's off in the direction of Ren. But for now, given that, you know, trolls and Bahirs and other things, the regular people are the Piltzes in particular are happy to just continue traveling with you until they get into some sort of more civilized lands. And then they'll turn west and head over that way. So did anybody want to do anything before we move on? So
Testing magic.
as you travel south, in the distance, you can see there is another group of soldiers up ahead. There's also what appears to be almost, it looks like it almost could be a child's head, but it's the size of a man. It's at least 6 feet tall. It appears to be severed off and very dead. It is propped up, and behind it, you see the remains of just stone blocks everywhere, stretched all across the road, off into the farmlands on either side. It is an immense amount of stone. And as you begin to get closer, you begin to discern that some of these stones are sort of stuck together. It is clearly sort of the remains of a building. And there's so much stone here, it doesn't necessarily look like it's even all that ancient a building. Plus, it's also in the middle of the road. It looks like it could be like an entire castle's worth of stone. And for some reason, there is what looks like a giant child's head that the soldiers are coming up. There are numerous arrows sticking out of it. Both of the eyes have burst. These soldiers have been abusing the head apparently for quite a while.
They're still
But
there.
it's not rotting or anything. It's fresh enough that that it, you know, hasn't really begun to turn. You can tell it's on the verge of that, particularly in the heat, but it can't be more than 2 days old.
Does it look like a giant?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, if it's a giant, it's a big one. Given that it's a child, the head is 6 feet tall-ish from like neck to the top. It's also, I forgot to mention, the skin is blue, but that is, you figure, not actually. That is probably the natural hue of the skin, not just some side effect of it being dead.
Do we recognize this creature? Whatever it is? Are they still there, these soldiers?
Oh yeah, no, the soldiers are all milling about. A number of soldiers are using the skull as like target practice, firing their arrows into it.
Do they seem to be reacting as we're getting closer?
Not at first. When you're within a couple 100 yards, they do notice you, but they They don't stop what they're doing. They see a cart and a bunch of people moving south. Only when you get very close to them and they can begin to recognize you, you can tell pretty quickly from the flags that these are more Imperial soldiers. As you get close enough for them to recognize you, there's another throng of people coming around because they know who Lucerosi and Zarius are. Wow, what are you guys doing here?
Traveling. What is that?
Dead giant. I assume a giant.
You did not slay it?
Oh no. This whole thing probably was just, they were probably spying on us. So when the anti-magic field came up, a whole cloud just evaporated in the sky and this just fell.
This structure fell from the sky.
Yep. You didn't hear it? You must have been pretty far away. We were stationed up at the bridge on the Tesoro and sent down here because we all saw it plummet.
Yeah, so we recently passed through that area. But no, we had not heard it. We must have been just far enough outside, or maybe we just thought it was thunder in the distance. Though I don't recall.
My memory is bad enough. I don't know. I don't remember.
Have your soldiers searched thoroughly through the structure?
Well, there's not much structure left. I mean, there's toppled walls and like smashed little bits of what I assume were towers. There's little knickknacks here and there. People have found coins, but other than, things that can't be destroyed, anything that can be broken certainly got broken if the whole castle smashed up this much. There might be something of use in here, but so far, most we could find was this baby's head.
No sign of any other creatures or perhaps any records that might identify what this was or what they were doing?
Well, we're pretty sure that it was some sort of flying castle, but not like we found any books or anything. At least nothing. There are bits of paper here and there, but nothing that we could get any information from.
This was the only sign of a creature.
Yeah, I mean, it did sort of freak us out a little bit when we realized that there was only one dead creature that we found here. It could well be that we haven't even found this giant's body yet. So there's still a lot that's buried underneath all this rubble. So we're hoping the parents were just crushed. Like maybe they were on the ground floor when it all crashed and they're just buried under the stone. That's better than the alternative, which is that they somehow got out. But without magic, I don't know how even a giant's going to survive a fall.
Yeah, Lucerosi instinctively goes to use his divine sense and finds that it doesn't work. And he's like, oh, right.
So are you guys here to help us fight the giants? Or the demons, or the elves for that matter, or the hobgoblins? So many enemies.
We have fought against each of those things on our journey here, but...
You hear that, fellas? They're here to help the army! And there's a cheer goes up. People lift spears into the air.
Sorry. That is not what we're here for specifically. We're more helping guide this family to safety at this moment, anyways.
Well, I mean, they should be pretty safe when they get over into Faressa. I mean, well, some of yous. Hey, Zarius, I don't know how safe you'll be, and the tiefling probably in trouble, and well, I wouldn't take an elf into Faressa if I were you.
Oh.
Yes, we
Not even
have
if she is a
heard
slave.
that.
I mean, you better watch out for her because the people of Faressa, we're at war with the elves. There are definitely places in Faressa where even elven slaves are no longer allowed to go. A lot of the officers brought their slaves with them, like personal attendants to tend to them on the battlefield. And what we found is pretty much every elf slave is just a spy waiting to happen. So we've stopped allowing them into sensitive areas, but the people of Faressa are downright paranoid about them, thinking they're all spies.
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that that's true necessarily, but I think a lot of them have probably unjustly been killed. Not necessarily just in Faressa either. The whole empire and the churchlands are up in arms about elven slaves. I mean, what are you gonna do? They're the backbone of the economy. You can't kill them all.
How is Vice acting or reacting with this conversation?
Vice is she has learned over time to be pretty inscrutable. So people insult slaves all the time, and the slaves are kind of expected to not react. So she's pretty good at that. So to the extent that she's even really paying attention to this, she probably isn't reacting all that much. You would get the sense overall that she's probably getting more tense, but you don't think there's going to be an outburst.
Okay. I wasn't worried about an outburst, but definitely that would be jarring for me to hear. So Lucirosi would chime back in and saying, so thank you for that information. We're mostly just trying to move through, though. And then Lucirosi would look at the group, unless there's anything that any of you wish to do while we're here.
It may be worth looking around.
Might be some food under these rocks.
That's a good choice, yeah.
That's actually not a bad idea. I mean, if this was some kind of establishment or abode, even if it were up in the sky, perhaps there are some foodstuffs.
Yeah, they're like giant chickens in the sky. Is that a thing? Maybe giant birds hanging out in giant castles. That sounds like the right thing. I would know.
Well, this whole castle, I should say, is kind of property of the army now.
Oh.
I don't mean to be aggressive or anything, but we knocked it out of the sky. We got here first. All of the signs point to us.
Sorry, we don't mean to assume that we would just be taking what we see.
The question: by what method? Show me how you brought this castle out of its sky.
Okay. See this entire red sky above us? This is a giant anti-magic zone.
And how did you produce it?
Yeah.
The Emperor did.
Well,
Silver
so
Throne.
that you did not bring it down.
Well, I mean, the Empire brought it down, and I am a soldier of the Empire.
So you are property of the Empire.
I am a soldier of the Empire.
Zarius, is this really necessary to go through all of this? We do not need to agitate this.
Yeah, because T-Hole built the throne, and then he's the reason it came down.
So it's his, right?
So technically it's his.
Mine.
Where is T-Hole?
Well, I'm right here. Don't you recognize me? You're probably too young.
In the books, you're a lot older.
I've always been
changed.
Is he really T-Hole?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, officer. It's just best not to engage him.
He is T-Hole.
I will drop trowel if needed.
His name is T-Hole, but let's just leave it at that.
Ink adds about 20 years.
Yeah. The
Well, it
form.
must be really hard for you then. I mean, anti-magic zone, that's your specialty.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing being in it rather than causing it.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you were emperor, like way back when you first started the empire, did you do things like this? I mean, I actually do take a sort of an interest in history, and I just don't remember ever learning of effects on the sort of scale that the modern emperors can put into place.
You know, it's a funny thing about age. I don't remember exactly. However, I definitely have used this before.
I'm sorry, but Lucirosi is just taken aback that he's encountered somebody that is not questioning at all that this is the T-hole who was the previous emperor, and he's wondering, is this guy kind of barmy? Like, or is he being serious, or is he just playing along?
You could make an insight check. You get the sense that he is serious, that he believes it, and that this particular guy's wisdom is a little bit low, and he may be kind of gullible. No, he could be gullible and correct.
He's a connoisseur of history, which you learn from a comic book. So
Right, he's a historian who's picking up his history from these books.
Of course. Okay.
Called,
Well, actually, that's not how it happened in the books.
called new historicism, by the way, which is a valid criticism, is talking about history through stories of the time. So he could be a new historicism.
Like, did you have the silver throne when you were emperor?
He built it.
Yeah, I built it.
I thought it was one of those leftovers from the Age of the Gods. At least that's the story that gets told now.
you hear that, Lucirosi? Gods. Whoa. There was more than one. Interesting.
I never said that there was only one. There are the four gods. Moraine, in addition to Asheros, there's Moraine, and he would rattle off the other gods who I can't remember.
Cledwell and Melora.
What's that? Oh, Cledwell and Melora.
Melora, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys, I wouldn't say we have a lot, but if you guys need some rations, I'm sure we can share enough. You guys have like a lot of magic, though. We're at the edge of this anti-magic zone, so you should be out of it in like a day. We could probably, I mean, there are a lot of you, but we can certainly give you enough food for a day.
Oh, if you were limited on your rations,
Sure, we'll take it. It sounds great.
No, we can go a day without. We can go a day where we find our own sustenance. If we're going to be outside of this anti-magic field, we'll have no problem producing enough food for everyone.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Who are all the new characters?
There are the other Deadpools. There's Numerius, faithful follower of T-Hole the Great. And there's the rest of them, which I have not committed to memory. There's
And then
it's funny because I feel like
he comes over to Aurelia and says, "Are you Lucirosi's daughter?
No.
Are you a Rakshasa?"
Do I know what that is?
You're a bard, so I would say sure. You would know what a Rakshasa is. although you would know them as tiger. They're basically a kind of fiend, but they're all like tiger men with hands that are set on their
Right.
arms backwards.
So is Aurelia a tiger mom?
I am a
But-
Rakshasa. Steal your soul.
Well, luckily, magic doesn't work here. So, why are you traveling with a Rakshasa?
She's not a Rakshasa. She
He looks
is-
back. Are you sure she's not a Rakshasa?
Gullible
Yes, I am sure. She was human at one point. She was transformed.
Oh,
By
wow.
Asheros.
Into a Rakshasa.
Yes, it
That's
seems
right.
to have been a blessing of Asheros that had
Mm-hmm.
done
Yes.
this.
Speaking of blessings, those rations you spoke of.
Yeah, we can gather together rations for your group.
We would be most obliged.
I'm not gonna argue or belabor the point because it's too hot.
I will sing you a song, Your Castle in the Middle of the Street.
Lucharos, you can just think of it as taxes of a sort. Taxes to the old emperor.
With interest.
These soldiers are going to need these rations. We do not need them so greatly.
So he goes and sort of hops up on a pile of rubble and begins shouting for people to come and see you guys, the Colossus and the Dead Pools.
These soldiers have their suppliers.
Yes, but we have also seen from the others that their supply lines are not really set up as effectively as they could be at this point.
That is not our fault.
I'm not saying that it is, but
If it is their time to die, they will die.
that is rather harsh, Zarius.
That is the way of life.
Yes, but it doesn't
It is
mean,
also the way of life that the foolish will live on.
right, but we don't need to be unkind or inconsiderate. That has nothing to do with the cycles of life and death.
They are being kind and considerate and assisting us on our path.
Yes,
Isn't
but
death like all of Zarius's religion? Like,
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah, Zarius, do you need to harvest anything from this giant baby head? Like some teeth or eyelashes or something?
No?
Okay.
Well, should we give it its rights or something? Like, hey, you want me to do a ceremony in Asheros' name for you, Lush? I can do it for this baby head.
mm,
Just gesture at it.
I think that it's safe to say that this is not a creature that would need such rights.
And I guess Nimrod will just leave the gold teeth that are in there then.
Gold teeth.
Yeah, there's probably baby heads like this probably have gold teeth.
I'm more interested in these giant gold coins, which are probably around here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a couple.
So a lot of people have sort of gathered around now. You can decide how many autographs you want to do this time. There are probably all told about 500 people who are basically excavating these ruins. Zarius, feeling generous, increases his allotment of autographs by 50% this day.
Since they are being so kind to give us rations, Lucharosi will sign as many autographs
Oh,
as
boy.
requested.
So
Time for a short rest.
they
Mhm.
do they do come forward with rations. The only rations they have that they're able to spare seem to be in the form of salted meat. If they have vegetables or grains, they're hoarding them because you don't see any of that. And Otto is a little disheartened to see it's nothing but salted meat because you've been living. That's what you found last time, rabbits. So it's been a lot of meat, and more meat for a couple of days. Otto is basically saying, "Am I to understand there will be no side dishes?"
So while Lucirosi is distracted giving autographs, I might pull T-Hole and Aurelia to the side and say, perhaps now is a good time to search around.
Okay.
Perhaps now is a good time to what?
To search this area. He will be busy. He will not stop until they have all received
Yeah, he won't be able to turn down a single autograph.
his signature. Do not know the reason for their collection.
And as I go and I'm searching around, if I find any soldiers who have not gotten an autograph, I'll send them over there.
Yeah.
So T-Hole would have like gotten his quill ready and like waited for autographs, but none came. It was like he was like the person at Comic-Con that nobody wanted to get an autograph from.
Right. That is true. No one knowing who you are, no one is asking for your autograph.
Yeah, exactly. So he would have just searched around a little dejected.
Searching with
Right.
disadvantage.
Kicking
So
rocks.
Aurelia also roll me an investigation check.
Okay. That is not this guy. Oh, no, that's not too bad.
So Aurelia, you don't really, and Zarius, you don't really find anything. There is clearly a lot that was in this castle. There are ruined tapestries and rugs and smashed furniture and plates and tables, lots of things that are now sort of useless. T-Hole do find something amidst of it. You find a sort of a giant smashed, what was probably like a strong box, but it's been, all four corners of it have now burst. And in addition to a number of now almost completely powdered gems, you do find 1,700 gold pieces, though you're probably not going to be able to. It's 1,700 equivalent gold pieces. It is actually just 17 giant gold pieces that are all half buried under stone. So you could probably get them, but you're going to have to, there's some heavy lifting involved to get the stones off of them.
How, like, does it look like these gold pieces are heavy? Like, would I be able to, like, carry 17 gold pieces?
They're like one of those joke quarters that the magicians use.
Right.
Like, are they like dinner plate, or are they like bigger, or just trying to get?
Right. They are like the size of dinner plates. So, and
Put them in backpacks. That's fine.
right. So that each one, there's 17 of them that you think are there. Each one weighs 34 pounds.
Well, good thing strength wasn't my dump stat.
No, wait, that can't be right. I can't possibly have, I clearly fucked my math up in my head.
I mean, 100 gold each.
Yeah,
roughly.
sorry. Each one weighs
pounds?
like 2 pounds.
Oh, that. So I'm definitely gonna start trying to move rocks and get stuff out of the way.
If I see that, I'll help him. I'm actually.
So when I say rocks, I don't mean like, like pebbles. I mean like blocks that are like 3 feet wide by 1 foot tall. These are sizable, like castle building size blocks.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you probably will need, in order to begin to move them, you will need either a super high athletics check or, like Lucirosi's help or somebody who's physically strong.
I'm actually pretty strong. I got 16.
Okay, the two of you could help Zarius then and give Zarius advantage.
Yeah, it works. Come on, Zarius, put your legs into it.
Well, one leg.
Yeah, don't crit because you might cripple your bad leg.
What would I roll here? Athletics?
Yes, it's athletics.
I guess with advantage then, with the assistance. Hey, look at that.
So it takes you about 10 minutes, but you are able not to, you can't move the stones like from one place to another, but you're able to
Topple
get
them
it
over.
up. Well, you're able to get it up off of these coins enough that T-Hole can begin to take them out and stow them away. I mean, they're all sort of, you're not sure. There clearly were on all of them the image of someone. They're all pretty smashed up and bit crushed now, so they're not even like nice coin shapes anymore. They're really sort of oblong. You're not sure who was supposed to be depicted on these coins, but it looks like it was probably a storm giant.
They've gone through a penny press.
Right, exactly like they've gone through a penny press.
Darius, I've got it. This combined with our dual payout, I think we'll come out of this anti-magic field all right.
Agreed.
What's when I look at this strong box? You said the four corners are blown out. Am I able to see inside?
Yeah, well, I mean, once the stone was lifted up, there were, like I said, there were clearly a lot of gemstones that were in there, but they are all reduced to powder at this point. So if you wanted, you could make an investigation check to try to identify what they were, but in powdered form, they're probably not directly valuable per se, except maybe as spell components to somebody.
I was going to say they might be component potentials.
So give me an investigation check. So you're sure some of them were opals and some of them were sapphires, like blue sapphires. Some of the other ones are probably a little more rare. You also realize picking through them, there were several bottles and there's a different sort of colored stains on the stones themselves, where what you're guessing were probably potions were, but they're all gone now. So what does Lucia Rossi think of the fact that everyone else has wandered off?
Does he even know?
Yeah, I imagine I would be paying attention to it, or momentarily, but I feel like given the number of people, and I don't know, is everyone clamoring for my autograph, or is it just like
it is, I mean, it's
or...
right. It is not, it is a number of people. It's not exactly the whole 500 of them at once. But it's, you know, a good 70 or 80 people who are around to kind of see you. Not all of them want your autograph necessarily, but a lot of them do want to sort of see what you look like in person.
Right, and probably some want to chat with me about the stories and get disappointed that it didn't happen like that.
Right.
So yeah, I think, you know, I would be kind of raising my eye at the group, but I would also figure I know what they're doing. I can't stop them. So I'm just going to make these people happy so that they feel like they got some value out of helping us with the rations that they're sacrificing.
Right. The Piltzes have essentially wandered off. Most everyone else is just off doing their own thing or taking a rest. So you can't see where everyone is at this point, especially with the crush of people around you, because you don't have any elevation relative to anyone else. And there are a lot of those sort of fanboy questions. Like in episode 42, you were wearing a blue tunic, but then the next episode you were in a red tunic. Did you change tunics?
I'm wearing everything that I was wearing.
I'm an adventurer. I never change clothes and never shower.
Very Galaxy Quest.
Right. So it is probably after about an hour of answering questions and signing things, you realize that the crowd is sort of cycling in and out. Different people will come into the crowd, other people will leave to go off and do things. But you are now getting the sense after an hour that you probably could be here all day. Because you're the most interesting thing going on in the camp at the moment. You've even distracted people from shooting arrows at the baby head.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how big a
that is a high degree of praise right there. So probably after an hour, I would graciously try to excuse myself and rejoin the group and be like, what mischief have you guys been up to?
And T-Hole will
Do
pull
we
out
get
2
back
dinner
before?
sets.
I assume no. I assume you would have taken it would have taken some time to do the searching, let alone
right.
getting the coins out. So you're probably getting back at around the time he's making his way out of the crowd. Eventually, the guy you met up front, the captain of this group, as their people are still sort of pressing in, asking questions, just reaching out to try to touch you as you pass. And eventually, he chimes in and goes, all right, everybody form up. We got to get back to work." And with admirable military discipline, that actually does shake them out of it, and they all get into ranks and all go back to the work they were supposed to be doing. And he comes back up to you and says, "So, where are you? You're just headed south at this point into Faressa? You might want to, I don't know, go to Ren instead. Ren is going to be
Yes.
way less hostile."
That is actually where we are headed. I believe there was talk of a refugee camp there. Do you happen to know details?
There are several refugee camps, so I don't know necessarily which one you want to go to. Does it matter?
Whichever is most convenient would be best. We do have other things that we are questing for at this time, but we don't want to leave these people in an unsafe land, in an unsafe situation.
Okay. Well, the closest refugee camp is actually on the border between Ren and Faressa. Hold on. Come back with me to my tent.
Okay, so I will do that. I'll follow him to the tent.
So you enter into this tent. It is not as sparse as you might have imagined. There are tables and furnitures, even light fixtures hanging down, although it's daytime, so the lights aren't on. And he goes over to a chest and opens it up. It is just filled with what look to be scrolls. And he reaches through and takes one out and pulls out a map of the region. And let me see if I can. Change the color so you can see it. He indicates the nearest refugee camp to where you are still requires you to cross through Faressa if you went in a straight line, but it is right there, like sort of halfway along the border between Ren and Faressa. All of the refugee camp, he explains, are the connection's been severed. My internet's going bad. You guys still there?